The diner's neon flickered against rain-slick glass. A young waitress froze as three drunk men blocked her path, laughter sharp, hands reaching too close. She thought no one would stand for her, until the glass trembled with the thunder of 80 Harleys pulling into the lot. Before we start this story, tell us, where in the world are you watching from? Also, please subscribe to the channel. It will help us to bring you more inspiring stories every day. The town of Pine Hollow lay off Highway 19, a place where truckers stopped for coffee and locals knew each other's business too well. At the edge of town stood the Silver Spoon Diner, its neon sign buzzing against the night. Lena Moore, 21, worked the late shift there. With her mother gone and her younger brother Caleb to care for, Lena carried the weight of two parents on her slim shoulders. Most nights were quiet, truckers sipping coffee, couples sharing pie. But some nights turned ugly. That Friday, rain hammered the windows as three men stumbled in, the sour smell of whiskey trailing them. Their voices were loud, their jokes sharper than knives. Lena plastered on a smile, setting down menus, but unease tightened her chest. She'd learned to brush off comments, to laugh nervously and walk away. But tonight their eyes lingered too long. Their laughter cut deeper, and before long they weren't just making jokes. They were closing in. "Hey, sweetheart," one slurred, blocking Lena as she tried to step away. His hand brushed her wrist, rough and unwelcome. She pulled back, voice steady despite her pounding heart. "Sir, I need you to sit down." Laughter erupted from the booth. Another leaned close, his breath reeking. "Come on, don't be shy. You're here to serve, aren't you?" The cook in the back glanced up, worry etched in his face, but he didn't move. No one ever did. In Pine Hollow, men like these weren't challenged. Lena's chest tightened. She thought of Caleb asleep at home, counting on her to return safe. "Please let me work," she whispered. The tallest of them grinned wider, stepping closer. The air thickened, heavy with menace. Then faint at first, then louder, the ground trembled. A low growl rolled through the rain. Headlights cut through the diner windows, dozens of beams slicing the storm. Laughter faltered. Glass rattled. 80 engines thundered into the lot outside. The drunks glanced at each other, confusion shadowing their grins. Lena turned toward the window, her breath catching. Chrome glinted in the rain as Harleys filled the parking lot, row after row, their roar shaking the very walls. Diners pressed to the glass, eyes wide, whispers buzzing. The door swung open with a jingle far too soft for the storm it unleashed. Boots hit tile, leather dripping rain. At the front walked Rhett Stonewall Carter, president of the local Hells Angels chapter, his shoulders broad, his eyes hard as steel. Behind him, booth after booth filled with bikers, their vests dark against the neon glow. Silence dropped heavy, broken only by the ticking of the wall clock. Stonewall's gaze locked on Lena, then slid to the men who had cornered her. His voice, calm but edged like a blade, cut the quiet. "Is there a problem here?" The three men froze, their smirks crumbling under the weight of 80 unflinching stares. One of the drunks tried to laugh it off, his voice cracking. "Just talking to the lady." The angels chuckled low, the sound more dangerous than silence. Stonewall stepped closer, boots echoing against tile. "Didn't sound like talking." The man swallowed, shrinking back into the booth. The others shifted nervously, their swagger gone. Lena's hands trembled as she gripped her order pad, the fear easing just slightly under the wall of leather that now stood between her and them. Stonewall turned his head, his voice softening when it reached her. "You okay, miss?" Her throat tightened. I think so." He gave a single nod, then faced the men again. "You listen good. This place? She runs it tonight. You touch her, you answer to all of us." The room went still. Then 80 engines outside revved in unison, rattling plates on the tables, shaking the very air. The men's bravado shattered completely. They weren't predators anymore. They were prey. The drunks scrambled from their booth, muttering curses as they shoved past each other toward the door. Outside, the angels shifted, a gauntlet of leather and chrome. The men hesitated, then fled into the rain, swallowed by the storm. Inside, silence held for a moment longer. Then Stonewall pulled out a chair and sat, his tone casual now. "Ma'am, I'll take coffee, black." The other angels laughed softly, the tension lifting. Lena's knees wobbled as she poured, her hands still trembling, but gratitude swelled in her chest. She set the cup before him. "Thank you," she whispered. Stonewall met her eyes, steady and kind beneath the hard edges. "Don't thank us. You deserved better long before tonight." As the booths filled with laughter and the smell of coffee mixed with rain, Lena realized something. For years she'd been invisible, a tired waitress, a single sister raising her brother. But tonight 80 men had seen her worth, and they had made sure the whole town saw it too. By morning, Pine Hollow was buzzing. At the bakery, voices carried, "80 angels in the diner last night." Another muttered, "They're trouble, not heroes." Lena kept her head down as she bought milk for Caleb, but whispers followed her. At school drop-off, a mother leaned close, her words sharp. "You're bringing wolves into this town." Lena's chest tightened, but Caleb tugged her hand, smiling. "You're my hero, sis." His faith kept her standing. That evening, she walked into her shift and froze. 2 angels were already at a booth sipping coffee like it was their second home. They tipped their heads when she passed, quiet, respectful. Her manager frowned, uneasy. But when a trucker muttered, "Angels, girl," Stonewall appeared at the counter, his voice calm but unyielding. "She's nobody's girl. She's her own, and she deserves respect." The trucker fell silent. Lena's breath caught. For the first time, someone had said aloud what she had long wished to believe. The days that followed brought both kindness and cruelty. A few customers left extra tips, whispering, "For what you went through." Others sneered, leaving without paying. Lena carried on, her smile thinner but her resolve firmer. One night, as she walked out to her car, a shadow stepped from behind the dumpster. A man she didn't recognize, eyes mean, breath heavy with beer. "Think you're safe now with your biker army?" Lena froze, keys clenched in her fist. Before fear could root deep, headlights flooded the lot. 3 Harleys pulled in, engines cutting the silence. The man cursed and slunk away. One of the bikers, a younger angel with a scar along his cheek, dismounted. "You shouldn't be walking alone." Lena exhaled, her hands trembling. "I can't live like this forever." He smiled faintly. "You won't have to. Fear burns out when it meets loyalty." She didn't fully understand yet, but his words planted something. Hope. The town council soon held a meeting. "We don't want their kind here," one man barked. "They're filling our streets." Another voice cut in. "They saved a girl's dignity when we didn't." The room fell quiet. Lena sat in the back, Caleb at her side, her hands gripping the wooden bench. For the first time, people were speaking her name, not as gossip, but as a question. Outside, the angels stood lined along the curb, their presence undeniable. When the meeting ended, Stonewall approached her quietly. "This isn't about us," he said. "It's about you. You stood up by staying in that room. That's courage." Lena's throat tightened. "I didn't speak a word." Stonewall shook his head. "You didn't have to. They saw you." That night, as she tucked Caleb into bed, he asked, "Are they our family now?" Lena paused, brushing his hair back. "Maybe they are," she whispered, heart shifting in ways she hadn't expected. The backlash hit hard. A spray-painted message scrawled across the diner wall one morning. "Angel's whore." Lena's stomach twisted as her manager scrubbed at it with trembling hands. Before long, the growl of Harleys echoed. A dozen bikers arrived with buckets and paint rollers. Stonewall himself dipped a brush and began covering the words, each stroke steady, deliberate. Customers watched, stunned. "This isn't her burden," he said. "It's ours." By dusk, the wall gleamed white again. Lena stood beside him, tears stinging her eyes. "Why do you keep showing up for me?" Stonewall's gaze softened. "Because you kept showing up for your brother, for this town, with no one clapping for you. We just gave back what you already live every day. Loyalty. The words sank deep. For the first time, Lena realized the angels weren't saving her. They were reflecting her own strength back at her, louder, brighter, impossible to ignore. Pine Hollow began to shift. Some still whispered, but others nodded as Lena passed. Truckers left folded bills with respect scribbled on them. Caleb came home from school beaming. "So they don't tease me anymore," he said. "They say my sister's got angels." One evening, as rain drizzled soft against the neon, Lena stepped outside to find the diner lot full. Every booth occupied, every table filled with leather vests. 80 Harleys lined the street, their presence like a heartbeat. Stonewall raised his coffee in salute, his voice carrying. "This place is hers. Tonight it's ours too." The laughter inside was warm, not cruel. For once, the diner didn't feel like a cage. It felt like a fortress. Lena leaned against the counter, watching as Caleb refilled cups, grinning wide. She whispered to herself, "We're not invisible anymore." And she knew the truth. Whatever storm still lingered in Pine Hollow, she wasn't facing them alone. Trouble returned one Saturday night. The diner was nearly empty, rain streaking the windows when the same 3 drunks stumbled in. Their eyes were meaner this time, sharpened by humiliation. Lena's stomach knotted as one slammed his hand on the counter. "Think you're untouchable now? Hiding behind your biker pets?" The cook froze, glancing at Lena with helpless eyes. She stood straight, her voice steady. "You need to leave." Laughter spilled from their mouths, cruel and loud. One leaned over, too close. "Nobody's here to save you now." Fear licked up her spine, but she held her ground. She wasn't the girl who whispered anymore. Outside, thunder rolled, not from the storm, but from the road. The drunks froze, their faces draining of color. Lena exhaled, a small smile flickering. "You were saying?" The glass shook as headlights cut through the rain. 80 Harleys poured into the lot, engines roaring like justice, arriving late but right on time. The door banged open as the angels flooded in, filling every booth, every aisle. Their leather was soaked, but their presence was fire. Stonewall walked straight to the counter, his gaze slicing through the 3 men. "I told you once," he said, voice calm but deadly. "You touch her again, you answer to all of us." Engines outside revved, rattling dishes, shaking the walls. The tallest drunk tried to bluster, his words breaking. You can't own this town." Stonewall leaned close, his voice low enough only they could hear. "We don't own it, but we protect what's ours. And tonight that means her." Silence crushed the room. The men stumbled back, scrambling toward the door, slipping into the storm. When the door shut behind them, a ripple of relief spread through the diner. Lena's knees wobbled, but she didn't fall. She stood taller than she'd ever felt. For once, she wasn't just being defended. She was being believed. By morning, Pine Hollow couldn't look away. Word spread fast. The angels had filled the Silver Spoon twice, chasing out men the town had long excused. At the hardware store, voices clashed. "They're dangerous," one muttered. Another shot back, "So were those drunks, and none of us lifted a finger." For Lena, the shift was personal. A woman stopped her at the grocery store, gripping her hand. "You're braver than we were." Tears stung Lena's eyes. She wasn't brave, she thought. She was just tired of shrinking. That night, Caleb asked, "Do they always have to protect you?" Lena brushed his hair back, smiling softly. "Not always. Sometimes I have to protect myself." But deep inside, she knew courage had taken root in her bones because 80 men had refused to let her be invisible. Their roar had forced the town to see her. And now she wasn't just surviving. She was beginning to lead. The final confrontation came at Pine Hollow's summer fair. Lights twinkled, music played, families filled Main Street. Lena worked a booth, Caleb beside her, laughter softening the air. Then, like poison in a glass, the 3 drunks appeared again. They swaggered through the crowd, eyes locked on her. Caleb's smile faded. "Lena," he whispered. The tallest man sneered. "Thought you were safe forever." He reached for her wrist. But before Lena could flinch, the ground shook. Harleys rolled into the fair, one after another. engines thundering until the music stopped. 80 angels surrounded the square, chrome flashing under carnival lights. The crowd froze, silence spreading like wildfire. Stonewall dismounted, stepping between Lena and the men. His voice carried over the stunned fairground. "This ends tonight." The drunks faltered, their bravado evaporating under a wall of leather and loyalty. And for the first time, the entire town saw who truly held the line. The square erupted in applause. Parents lifted children onto their shoulders, clapping loud and long. Lena's face burned, not with shame, but with something new, pride. Caleb hugged her waist, whispering, "They came again, just for you." Tears blurred her vision as Stonewall turned, his voice calm but certain. "You stood alone too long." "You won't again!" The angels revved their engines, the sound echoing like a hymn across Pine Hollow. The three men slunk away, swallowed by the night, their reign of intimidation broken for good. Lena stood in the center of the square, her hands trembling, her heart steady. For the first time, she felt like she wasn't just being rescued. She was being honored. Around her, the crowd's clapping grew louder, no longer for the bikers alone, but for her. And in that roar, Lena realized something profound. She had gone from invisible to unforgettable. And the town would never see her the same again. The days after the fair changed Pine Hollow in subtle but undeniable ways. At the diner, customers who once looked past Lena now greeted her by name. Truckers left folded bills with words scribbled, "Respect." Parents nodded politely at school pickup, no longer whispering. Lena still carried unease, but it was lighter now. One evening she found the diner booths filled again with angels, their laughter booming. Stonewall motioned her over, sliding a folded bill across the counter. She opened it to see Caleb's name written in steady block letters. "School supplies," he said simply. Lena blinked back tears. "You don't have to—" Stonewall cut her off, his gaze steady. "Family looks after its own." For years, Lena had scraped by, her kindness unnoticed. But now her strength was mirrored back to her through chrome and thunder. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was part of something that made her stand taller than she ever thought possible. One Saturday morning, Lena took Caleb to the park. Sunlight spilled across the grass, children laughing. Parents who once avoided her now waved, cautious but genuine. Caleb raced to the swings, shouting, "Push me higher, sis." Lena laughed, the sound freer than it had been in years. Then came the rumble. Harleys rolling past on the nearby road. Caleb leapt from the swing, waving wildly. The bikers raised hands in salute, their thunder fading into the horizon. A father nearby muttered, "Maybe they're not all bad." Lena caught his words, her heart swelling. For the first time, the town wasn't whispering fear. It was reconsidering. That night, Caleb curled up on the couch. "You're braver than anyone," he murmured sleepily. Lena kissed his hair, whispering, "No, kiddo. I just finally stopped hiding." She realized then that the angels hadn't simply protected her. They had shown her the strength she already carried, and given her the courage to claim it. Summer rolled on, and with it came the Highway Brotherhood Run, an annual ride honoring loyalty and resilience. Stonewall invited Lena and Caleb. "You belong with us," he said. At first she hesitated, but when Caleb's eyes lit up, she agreed. The day of the run, Main Street overflowed with chrome and leather. 80 bikes gleamed in the sun, lined like an army. At the very front sat Lena, not on a Harley, but in the diner's old pickup. Caleb riding shotgun, grinning ear to ear. Stonewall raised a hand and engines ignited, thunder shaking the earth. As the convoy rolled through Pine Hollow, people lined the sidewalks, clapping, waving. Children pointed at Lena's truck, shouting her name. Her cheeks burned with pride. She wasn't just the waitress anymore. She was the woman who had stood, endured, and been honored for it. And with every mile, she realized, her life had shifted from surviving quietly to riding proudly. That night after the run, the angels gathered at the diner. The booths overflowed, laughter loud, coffee flowing like a river. Stonewall stood, lifting a small leather patch stitched with a single word, family. He handed it to Lena, his eyes steady. You kept showing up when life gave you reasons to quit. That's what this stands for. Lena's throat tightened as she held it, her hands trembling. Caleb clapped, beaming with pride. The whole room erupted in cheers, engines outside revving like applause. Lena pressed the patch to her chest, tears streaming freely. For years she had been invisible, another girl behind a counter fighting alone. Now 80 men in leather had made her story impossible to ignore. She wasn't their property. She wasn't their project. She was their equal in courage, their sister in spirit. And the patch proved it. She belonged. On a quiet autumn evening, Lena locked up the diner. The neon flickered, casting its familiar hum across the empty lot. For the first time, she wasn't afraid to walk to her car. Caleb skipped ahead, laughter echoing. Then came the sound, the deep, steady growl of engines rolling past on Highway 19. Not stopping, not guarding, just passing through. But as the thunder faded into the night, Lena smiled. It wasn't fear she felt anymore. It was comfort, a reminder. She wasn't alone, not tonight, not ever again. She slipped the small leather patch into her pocket, holding it close. With Caleb's hand in hers, she whispered, "We're home." And as the stars burned bright over Pine Hollow, Lena knew one truth. Sometimes the fiercest angels don't carry wings. They carry loyalty, and they ride on steel. Sometimes family finds you in the unlikeliest places. A diner booth, a rumbling convoy, a single act of courage.